Welcome to By George, an 80 Players podcast. I am your stand-in host, Jesse GrothOlson, the marketing director here at the 80 Players. And today I have with me Jaron Myers. Jaron is a stand-up comedian. He tours all over the country. He's got not one, but 2 comedy specials on Amazon and over 1 million followers online. Those have yet to be proven and documented, but we're going to go ahead and run with 1 million. Jaron, thanks for coming.
Yeah. You do the thing where you add it up.
Yeah. It's cumulative.
It's cumulative followers.
Great.
And also, like, my TikTok following has been it's been almost 1 million for like 3 years now.
That's gotta hurt.
It sucks.
That's gotta hurt.
It's to the point where I've considered paying for
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, you get the messages.
Like
They're like, hey, do you want 1,000 followers?
That's what I'm saying. And
Yeah.
it's like the bulk of my followers are real.
Yeah.
You know, and who's to know if I throw in 50,000
Right.
just to push me over the edge.
More than what your mom's already doing.
It's kind of like if you're already like naturally kind of jacked, you know, what are steroids?
What is a little vitamin S
What are
to help you get over that edge?
You know, speaking of things that, you know, supplements, I do sell Melaleuca, and I would love to use this platform as an opportunity.
Absolutely, do whatever, sell whatever you want. Yeah.
No, I'm not going to pitch my pyramid scheme I'm guesting on someone's podcast, and I go, hey, by the way,
what else are you here to do? I mean, frankly, we're going to talk about all your ridiculous tours at the end.
Sure.
And I'll be like, oh, listen, this guy's got more tours than. I don't know. I'll come up with something better by then.
More tours than you got.
I know.
Yeah,
I'm watching
like
it right here.
to figure out
and
something.
I am sweating.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I heard you. It was very funny. You were on your podcast pitching your tour. You're like, we're going to God's Houston. And I died. I moved here 10 years ago.
Okay.
And if you'd asked me top 10 cities I ever want to live in, this was not on the list.
Okay.
Like ever. And then I got here and I was like, yeah, it's weird. It's weird. It's the 4th largest city in America.
Yep. People don't know that.
No, people don't. It's also wildly diverse.
Right.
It's crazy diverse. But so I live here now. I've lived here for 10 years. Your next stop is Bartlesville,
Oklahoma,
where I was born.
5th largest
city in the Tulsa area. Yeah. I was born in Bartlesville.
Oh, okay.
So my question is, why are you stalking me? Like, what's going on with that? Obviously,
I'm just doing the life tour. You know, I was going to go to where your first kiss was, which is
well, you know,
soon to be determined. I think.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm married twice, never kissed. So I'm waiting.
God's
for
Houston.
That special.
And I know it's just Bartlesville, Oklahoma is where you're born.
And I know it's wild. It's
they have a hospital in Bartlesville.
It was a shed at the time.
Okay.
Now it's
You're
now
one
it's
of those,
a clinic.
Like hot tub births.
Before it was cool. Listen, my mom was doing water births before it was cool.
Man.
No, so the actual question there is, how do you build a tour? How do you decide here's where we're going?
People ask to book me, and we say sure. That's kind of, so I've got like established tours that are coming out this fall, and those are with promoters, and so they do most of that stuff.
Got it.
There's like 2 different kinds of tours, and so like Brian Regan, if you ever ask him, you know, what's your next? He doesn't name his tours. He just like, dates get added to the calendar. It's a never ending.
We just call it a tour.
Yeah, it's a never ending stream of shows. That's kind of because a lot of my shows are private events.
Mm-hmm.
I do a lot of volunteer nights for churches, or I do a lot of like even Bartlesville is a part of the homecoming celebration of that college.
Yeah.
And they've just chosen to make it a public event, but a lot of colleges will be like, no, it's just going to be students and parents.
Okay.
And so, people can book me for shows.
Sure.
But then the established tours, this is something I'm really excited about. This is something I've been working toward for a long time.
Yeah.
Is with those promoters, they are the ones who kind of seek out, you know, which markets are other comedians not going to or haven't been to in a while.
Yeah.
And so like I don't know how they did this before AI, you know?
Sure. Yeah. Like do the research on it.
They've got this kind of, and they've been doing it for decades. They've got this system that's just like, okay, here's where our current shows are going. We can promote it on that. And so they just build that stuff out. So honestly, dude, I just show up to where I'm told to go.
Yeah.
And so
same,
you know?
So then like the Smoking Hot Life tour, the church comedy tour, those are put on together by someone else. And you're just like, yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah. Well, the Smoking Hot Life tour is with Shama Marema, who's a very good friend of mine. And we paid for the branding for that. We paid for the...
Looks great.
That's our friend Dustin, who is a graphic genius. And then, you know, Shama and I kind of self-financed that, and then we reached out to churches that we performed at before, and they were like, "Hey, can we do this show there just to get it kind of rolling?"
Yeah,
because I'm in the Christian entertainment industry. In this space, you have to prove to the promoter. Actually, this kind of works in any entertainment business. You have to prove to the promoter that it'll work. And then they go, okay, yeah, we can buy some dates for that. And so that's what happened with that, is that we put on our own shows. Our first one was in like February of 22, I think. Wow. So like a while ago.
Yeah.
And then, we just kind of done like 2 or 3 different shows. We did one in Nashville to invite some people who are kind of the key decision makers on that. Yeah. And then they decided to book some shows for this fall. And like hopefully going to book more shows in the spring.
So as long as it proves out,
yes,
they'll just keep, Yeah,
because it's a great show. I mean, like Shama's very funny on stage. I think I'm pretty funny on stage.
Sure.
And so
TBD. No, we get that. Like, we're a Christian theater company.
Okay.
And so you have to. It's weird. You have to prove like actually we can do great theater.
Sure.
To the people who aren't Christians, and then to the people who are Christians.
If this show flops, I am Tim Hawkins. Yeah. And please spread the word.
Yes, and I'm Jamie McGann.
Yes.
So my boss. Who would you say influences you comedically? Who do you see or watch or aspire to?
I mean, I feel like most of that happens when you're like a kid. Most of your sense of humor is developed when you're a kid.
We're all doing someone else when we're in middle school, right? You're doing Farley, you're doing whatever. Yeah.
And so, I'd say growing up, I was a big fan of Dane Cook because he was the biggest thing in the 2000s. And so that was the first time I was like, oh, I want to be a stand-up comedian, was when I saw his Vicious Circle special, which if this is a Christian group, don't watch it.
We'll cut this out.
Yeah. But I don't know if I would say like I'm influenced by that, but that's where my humor came from. And I also grew up in the 2000s. So the humor of my friend group and all that kind of stuff. I would say most of the stuff I do on stage is just stuff that I think is funny. Yeah. And so that was really good advice that I got at the beginning of my career, was if you don't think it's funny, don't go out there and try to tell it.
No, because you have to buy into it.
Yeah, because if you start writing stuff that you're like, other people will think this is funny. Yeah. That's how you get, like, there's so many creators online. Yeah. You watch them and you're like, you hate this content. Yeah. And I can feel that you hate this content.
I can see it in your face.
But you're doing it because you know it works for the algorithm. Yeah. And it's sucking the life out of you. Yep. And it's also draining me to have to watch you be drained. Yeah. And so that was a foundational spot where I started, was like, I'm just going to do what I think is funny. And so, I grew up on Dane Cook, on Brian Regan, on Whose Line Is It Anyway? Yep. And I think that those things just, I don't know that I would say I intentionally learned pacing from those things, but like, yeah.
There was a bluegrass musician who talked about, he would listen to a lot of like Jay-Z or Kanye West. Oh, sure. And he would say like, I would get hooked on a Kanye track and I would just listen to it. And he said, and some part of it would go down inside of me and stick to my spine. Yeah. And then I'm writing a new song. I know it's got Kanye in it. Right. No one else is going to listen to it and go like, oh, that's Kanye. You stole it from Kanye. Sure. But there's definitely something that gets in and imbues you, and then that becomes part of you. Yeah. Yeah. So when you write, then are you like sitting down, pen and paper, writing Seinfeldian style, like measuring it all out? Or are you, okay, you're writing.
I'm not you can definitely tell the comedians who are that kind of style, which is a different level of discipline, I think. Yeah. I do have a discipline of like, I call them ramblings on my iPad or a journal or whatever, and I just sit down and I just kind of free flow whatever I'm thinking about. And then if I'm trying to write, if I've got like a premise, so like right now I got a premise about Little League baseball, because my nephew plays Little League baseball. So good. And so I've got a couple punchlines and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try those out. And then I sit down and I go, okay, so I've got these jokes that I want to make about Little League baseball. So now I'm just gonna free flow in my memory of going to a Little League baseball game, and just every detail I can think of. Yeah. I'm not going to think about how to talk about that detail. I'm just going to write the detail down. Smart. So I've got like concession stand and the water fountain, and the bleachers, and they're too hot on the sun. And like, I literally just free flow everything that I can remember about baseball, or being at the games, or being around that atmosphere, or going to the pizza buffet afterward with the team, all
with the red cups.
Exactly. Yeah. I just free flow all of that so that I've got this almost like encyclopedia, this thing that I can reference, that then when I'm building out the story, then I can try to go, like, it also just kind of puts me in that spot where I'm then, comedy is just, noticing funny things around you. And so if I can put myself back in that spot, then when I'm there, I can notice funny things there.
That's good. Pete Holmes talks about a bit being a playground.
Yeah.
Right. And you're like, oh, I didn't even touch the slide. Like, oh, I got to go over there. There's a whole thing over there.
The whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really good.
And then I play it out on stage. And a lot of times I'll just sneak in one of those punchlines just to see if they work.
Just to see what happens.
Yeah. And it kind of just evolves, and then it moves into, all of a sudden I've got a 10-minute story that started as a throwaway line, just because I've just kept adding to it.
Yep. Kept playing in that space.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you have a place where you go to like work out? Like a club where you go like, oh, I can get 10 minutes here and try this new stuff?
When I lived in Kansas City, I did. My wife and I, we just moved last year to Los Angeles.
I'm sorry.
Everyone says that, but you live in Houston, and
and that's fair. But I came from LA. I was a decade in LA. Really? Yeah.
Which part of LA were you in?
I started in Downey, and then I went out to Thousand Oaks because
I would be sorry like too, man. I live in Glendale.
Yeah, no, Glendale. No, the Jacquard Noir is going to be thick where you live.
I'd say we love where we live.
Yeah.
So, it is awkward when people are like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And
and I did it as a joke because I know, being in Glendale.
I did a thing in Ellendale, North Dakota. And I said,
they were sorry.
I went, I'm from Los Angeles, and one of the people in the front row went, boo. And I went,
let me just check real quick.
In Ellendale, North Dakota, you don't get to boo, And so, like, we like it, whatever. We moved down there. My wife's got a lot of friends out there.
Oh, okay, that helps.
And so, and I'm on the road a lot.
Yeah.
And so it's the LA comedy scene, which is mostly just comedians performing for comedians.
Yes, it is. So trying to get cast on something else.
Oh my gosh, they're trying so stinking hard
to get cast on something. Yeah.
And so it's exhausting.
Yeah.
And so when we meet new friends, we tell them I'm a public school speaker.
That's perfect.
We just go, he does like school assemblies. We don't tell them that I do shows or anything like that, because as soon as somebody's like entertainment industry, they think either I'm going to try to use them, or they're going to try to use me, and even if neither of us are going to do that, it adds this like weird
because everyone's radar is on. And so I would have to decide, okay, what kind of conversation do I want to have for the next hour? Mm-hmm. Do I want to have the entertainment industry conversation, or do I want to have the no one's going to talk to me because nobody cares about high school assemblies?
Because then people find out I'm a comedian.
Yeah.
Then they ask like stupid questions, you know, and they want to be like, who were you influenced by?
Those are the worst. I think we can all categorically agree. And then they're going to make fun of where you're from, and it's the worst.
Right. So I had a spot in Kansas City that I could go to. And so I'm trying to find that there's a couple shows that I could text and be like, hey, can I jump on?
Sure.
Yeah. And I've still got those spots in Kansas City.
That's huge. So when you go up with something and you're going to try some stuff, how far do you drag it through the mud before you're like, okay, I'm done with this, on to the next? Or do you
rarely,
you're just funny all the time?
Oh, I crush
everything. That's amazing.
No, on those shows, if there's a show I can get 10 minutes on, if I get less than 10 minutes, I usually just do something that works. I'm not going to go up because bombing feels terrible.
Sure.
And I don't want to.
Yeah. No.
To me, the bit's not worth it for me to have to go up there and then drive home and be like, am I even good at this? Because I know I'm good at this.
Right.
And so if I've got 10 minutes, I'll do 2 minutes that I know will crush.
Yes.
And then I'll spend
the next
4 to 5 minutes just throwing in those little punchlines, see if I can figure out something that works and clicks. And then I have a strong finish that I go, okay, I know I'm going to sandwich this.
Yeah.
And so that way, at the end of the day, nothing else, I've got a couple laughs on the front of the back end.
It's Olympic gymnastics, right? You're like, I don't know what just happened, but you really stuck the landing.
Yes.
And that's all I need to know.
And that's all that matters. And that's why I tell comics too. I go, just get comfortable.
Yeah.
Get a beginning.
Yeah.
Get your ending. As long as you know. It's the same thing with this podcast interview. You did your intro, right? And this could be a total mess. It is, but so far, but as long as you land it well,
boy, there's how much time? Okay,
a lot left.
Oh boy, how have you seen your joke writing change as you pass from one life stage to another? How have you seen where you're like, oh, I used to feel, but now I feel something else different over here.
Honestly, I think what we talked about before, where I did spend a couple years writing jokes that I thought other people would think is funny.
Okay.
And so there was some stuff And if I go back and watch my old footage, I can definitely tell the parts of the show that I enjoyed more.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, this is funny to me and it's funny to the audience.
Yeah.
And a lot of stuff when I was first started, I couldn't figure out how to, I knew how to structure jokes, but like, I couldn't figure out how to structure the jokes that I liked in the way that the audience also liked. So I would leave a show, be like, I really like this part, but no one's laughing at it.
Yeah.
And they're laughing at the stuff that's like, oh yeah, I know how to structure. You know, I'd write some, I don't want to call them hacky, but they're easy jokes.
Yeah. You know it's going to work.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's an easy 30-second joke that's going to get them on my side. We're good to go. And so I think as I started dating my wife, and so I wasn't honestly doing a show and being like, is that cute girl laughing at this show? Not about my wife, but like, you know, I would travel and be like, oh my gosh, there's a cute girl at the show. Yeah. Does she think I'm funny?
Please like me.
You know, and as soon as I started dating my wife, that went away. And then as the more shows that I was doing where I was like making money doing this, it was no longer like, I got to hustle and try to make rent and try to do this. And I hope that this starts working. The more that it started to work out, it's like anything in life is like, you know, it became like, even the times where I was like, man, I don't feel very funny, the circumstances around my comedy were arguing with that. That makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it's like, well, if I wasn't funny, then one, people wouldn't be laughing at the show.
Yep.
And two, I wouldn't be getting booked to go back to a place I just did.
No, they don't bring back someone who bombs.
Those are things that I would remind myself a lot of.
Yeah.
And so as I don't want to say like I had a lack of confidence. I've always had too much confidence. But as that grew, as that kind of solidified a foundation, that I could be like, all right, they gave me the freedom to do like what we talked about. It gave me the freedom to do a couple minutes without laughs.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, some patience.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it gave me the ability to try a punchline, it not work, and me recover well.
Totally, because you have to have a way to bail yourself out of well, that didn't work. Yeah. Whatever it is.
And I don't even have to acknowledge it. That's what I was saying. At the beginning, I used to acknowledge, like if a joke didn't work, I'd be like, oh, they didn't like that one.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, I thought you guys would laugh at that.
Yeah.
But then there's times where I say something and I go, and in my head I go, oh, they didn't like it, move on to like, you know, get a different punchline or whatever. And so as I became more comfortable with the fact that this is my job, and you know, I'm well liked by my wife and my friends, and I don't have to use my performing on stage to get them to like me, that freed up my creativity. And my show just got funnier like exponentially. And it snowballed into the show I think I'm doing now is very funny.
I hope so. What is the you talk about like something being hacky, like okay, it gets a laugh, it kills, but it's not good.
Sure.
What makes it like, because most people are going to go, well, if you laughed, it's funny, right? The joke is good. And you're like, well, no. So for you, what's the line between like, I mean, I know I can get it to laugh, but oh, that one was good.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like the level of creativity that goes into it, you know, it's hard to say without like criticizing things. And I don't want to do that, but there's definitely jokes that's like, that was the job of like what I'm saying when I sit down and write jokes and I write down all these things is my job is to try to go deep into this topic and pull out like the funniest jokes are the things where you go, oh my gosh, I forgot about that.
Yes.
And then it pulls out this deep memory, or it like hits so specific to your core, like your knowledge of this topic.
Yeah.
And I think hacky is where it stays it's applicable to everybody. And I think that that's where so much of social media humor is, because it's trying to hit everybody. It's trying to hit everybody.
Yeah.
Right.
And unless you're a cat, you're not going to get everybody.
And that's why so much of the internet gurus, the social media people, are like, you got to niche down. Almost the same thing with jokes. You have to niche down your joke, where it's like, me joking about Bible Man is funny because there's people who don't get that joke.
Right.
And so it's funny because the people who get it really get it. And then there's people who are outside, which makes it more satisfying. I think that's Seinfeld was talking about that, like the jump or whatever. And that's where I think hacky is where there's just no
connection.
There's no jump. It's just sort of like, okay, everyone can get that joke, and there's a place for them. There's plenty of them in my show. You know?
Yeah, I think what you're saying is you don't want to come across as being like, well, this person or this joke or whatever is bad, but you're just saying like, no, of course I do it. Of course we do it. But for you, a great joke is like, it was funny and it connected and it drew something else out.
Yeah. Because I mean, like, with so much of observational humor is it's like, oh, the hand dryers don't dry my hands very well. So many people have made jokes about that or around that. That it's kind of like, oh, another person's doing a joke about the hand dryers, you know, or.
Well, and it's tough as a comic because like your lives are all very similar. You do a lot of travel.
Right.
You do a lot of these things. And so it's hard not to do an airline joke.
Right, for
it's
sure.
hard. You're like, but man, it was there.
It hits.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
And so, and it's the same thing. You know, I do cruise ships. I don't do cruise ships often. I've done 3.
That's plural. You can say that.
It's multiple.
That's right.
Yeah, but I don't want to be like, oh, I do cruise ships.
You got cruise ship money?
Yeah, I got those big carnival bucks. No, but you know, when I'm there, I do jokes about the cruise ship. And it's like, yes.
Well, it's the same thing as like you come to a city.
I'm going to do some Houston jokes.
You have to do some Houston jokes because it's acknowledging that you're here and it's acknowledging that they're here and it's saying.
And it's stuff that's like, hey, me as an outsider, here's what I've observed.
Totally.
About your rinky-dink, you know, 4th largest.
Yep.
I'm from one of the big ones.
Well, I'll tell you, when I moved here, I thought, man, people know a lot of niche statistics.
Oh, yeah.
Like, did you know that we are the 2nd most? And you're like, what are you even talking about right now?
This?
Yes. Why are you?
If you feel like you're in a position where you have to constantly sell your city to me, just move.
Yeah.
It
for
seems
sure.
like the
for
more,
sure.
it's like
the harder you're selling.
Dude, it's like when you have a friend who's really telling you how incredible his girlfriend is, and it's like, dude, I don't think you believe this.
Yeah, I don't think she's real at this point.
That might be true.
Yeah.
But also, like, it seems like you're really trying to convince us how much you like her. Yeah. Because you're trying to convince yourself that you like her.
Yeah. There's things that I say that as soon as you have to say it, it's not true. It's I'm in charge. I'm funny. Like things like that where you're
I'm an alpha male.
Exactly.
That's not true.
Because you just had to tell me that.
That's not how this works.
That's a beta move, man. That's a big beta move. Yeah.
Yeah, we're 2 white guys on a podcast talking about alphas and betas. You know?
We needed more of that. Just it's gonna help our algorithm. How long did it take for your wife?
What do you think about vaccines?
Listen, I could tell you. I could tell
Don't do that. Don't do that. No, it was a joke.
No, I know. How long did it take for your wife to not find you funny?
First of all, my wife finds me very funny still. Like we're not.
He did have to say it, didn't he?
Because like I got a really. My wife thinks I'm super funny.
Yeah.
No, she doesn't think my show was funny. That didn't take long. She went to she saw the show like 3 times, and then she was like, "Okay, I get it.
I'm good."
My parents are like that though. I invited my parents to one of my shows, and it was on a Saturday night. And my mom, this is not a joke. She went, "It's live PD night." I said, "Yeah, I live states away, and I'm doing a show near you. Do you want to come to the show? Live PD's on. We'd rather watch live PD."
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
She goes. I was like, "This is my show." She goes, "I've seen it."
That's amazing. That's amazing.
So
that's good. That's good.
In my own family.
Yeah.
Live PD.
No, for sure. For sure.
It's live.
Well, I think there's an age and stage part of that too, right? Like I remember when we had our first kid, we needed help moving. Like new baby and moving.
Right.
And we reached out to some people, and this older gentleman was like, I golfed that day.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
it's a routine. You can't break it.
Listen, far be it from me.
Sorry.
I do not want you to miss your tea time.
Impose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just blow out my back, but that's cool. That's cool. That's cool. That's cool. What is, I like what you have to say about what makes a good joke. I've always wondered, a good joke is so obvious retrospectively.
Yeah.
So for people to hear you get up tonight and tell some jokes, they're like, "Oh, that was so good. I love how he thought about that." It makes perfect sense.
Right.
Until it makes perfect sense, it's a quagmire.
Yes. Yeah.
Of like, how do I get here? Is this the note? Is this working? What's the tone here? Do I need to change his color?
Sure.
How do you feel before you hit that retrospective point of clarity when you're in the midst of like working it out?
Honestly, usually you feel like you got something really good already and you're running it and it's working and it's kind of, and then one time you tweak one small thing and it just hits another level and you go, oh, like I've got a story about possums in my show.
Love it.
when I first started telling that story, it was pictures of raccoons because I thought raccoon was a funny word. But then I just changed it to possums one time, and the P on possums.
This is the airdrop thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is funnier.
So good.
And so I was doing the whole airdrop story.
Yep.
Where I was like, I'm sending pictures of these raccoons.
Yeah.
And I was like, and they weren't even dead raccoons. They were just cute little pictures of raccoons or whatever. And I thought that was funny. Yeah. And then at one time I switched it to possums. And I think I did it on accident. I think my head was just like, oh yeah, possums. And it just
killed.
The story was, it was still funny. People were laughing at it, but then it just hit this next level.
Yep.
And I think that's where I'm saying is like those hacky jokes, they're easy. They're stuff that you could see on Twitter.
Of course.
And then there's, let's go further. You know, and with Christian humor too, it's a lot of people who are just like, oh, youth pastors love Chick-fil-A. And you're like,
they do.
Yep, you really crushed it. They did, and there was we made all those jokes. I mean, I did that joke, the video in 2017. We made all those jokes 7 years ago. You know. Now it's time to dig
deeper,
underneath,
further.
that.
What's behind it? Yep.
And so that's you know. It's the same thing with any of your like relationships and people in general. You know, is that how do you know you found your best friend? Yeah, is you find a friend. Yeah. And then you spend more time with that friend, and then all of a sudden one day something. It's not like you just meet somebody in your clique in your brain. And you go, "This is my best friend now,"
right? Because we're not
and
six.
we're gonna spend the next 20 years raising our kids together. You know, like that doesn't. You spend time with somebody, and then all of a sudden you look up in like 6 months and be like, "I think Tim's my best friend." Yeah, you know. And so it's the same thing with jokes, is what I think.
That's so funny. So you're out here dating your jokes.
I am.
I love that. What did the pandemic or the lockdown do to and or for you?
Oh my gosh.
In terms of process or craft or even products? Like
what
did you
digitally
do?
Alter and like add like wrinkles and a gray and like
we'll do the Matt Damon thing.
The pandemic. I haven't thought of that in years.
Yeah, was you not?
That was one of the worst years of my life.
Okay.
It's terrible. Because I mean overnight all my shows are gone. Yeah. And my manager quit. Like so my and I don't give a crap to say this, is that, you know, I signed with a manager in 2019. Yeah. Pandemic happens. 2 weeks into the pandemic, he calls and he's like, hey, man, I'm leaving the company. And just dipped. And
just
I was
quit.
Like, cool. And then I got moved to a different manager at the same company. Didn't like him. We got on a call where I was like, hey, man.
I don't think this is it.
This ain't going to work. Yeah, you're frustrated on our calls. I'm really frustrated on our calls. Let's not do this. Yeah. You know? And then I got moved to a different manager who is my current manager. And I will work with her forever. For as long as she will let me. She's phenomenal. And so it was just a time where it was like no one's got answers. No one knows what's going on.
Nobody knew. But
for sure.
But everyone said, I told you.
Oh my gosh, I know. I'll tell you what.
But nobody knew.
What was weird was I was Uber driving back then.
Love it.
I was Uber driving I started in 2017. And in Kansas City, like you could go out on a Saturday night and make $300.
That's crazy.
Back in the heyday of Uber driving. And then the word got out. Too many people spilled that you could make $300. Yep. And so then you could make $50.
Blew up your spot.
Ridiculous. And so, but anyway, I was Uber driving when it was like decent extra side cash.
Love it.
And so I was actually Uber driving the day on March 13th of 2020. I was Uber driving and my now wife, she was flying in. Her birthday is March 17th. So she was flying into Kansas City for her birthday. And she, as soon as she leaves LA is when, because she lived out there, is when the shutdown happened. But I was Uber driving that morning, and this lady, I dropped her off at City Hall. I don't know what she does or whatever, but she was on the phone. She was like and she was texting, and she seemed like very stressed that morning. And we're driving, and she goes, I don't want to alarm you, but when you drop me off, I need to be your last passenger, and you need to go home. You need to fill up your car with gas, and you need to go buy groceries to stay at your house for a month. And I was like, what do you know? Yeah. And then 4 hours later, the announcement came out that it was a shutdown. And I also love that they were just like, because it happened on a Friday. And they were like, hey guys, you have till Tuesday. So
I mean, we're all
stupid.
dying.
That's what I'm saying. There's a
But you
huge
got till
virus out there. It's
Tuesday,
super dangerous. Starting Tuesday is a lockdown.
Yeah.
Take the weekend, bro. Ridiculous. Anyway, I thought that was wild. But anyway, so, that was a weird moment. So then you don't know when that's going to go away.
Yeah.
And so all of us assumed a month and done.
Right.
And then it turned into
Forever and a day.
forever. And so, by July, I have a weekly call with my management team. And by July, we had canceled our meetings. We were just like, let's do once a month. We had no shows.
Yeah.
I didn't do a single show
Yeah.
until
What are you going to talk about?
beginning of September.
That's crazy.
From March to September. So no shows. So I was door dashing. I was Uber driving. Now, actually, I will say the first 2 months we were getting the stimulus checks and whatever.
Yeah.
And like I had money in my account.
Yep.
We're doing all right. And then come September is when they're like, hey guys, car payments, rent, and credit cards are due.
Life's coming back.
Right.
Yep.
But no one could agree that life was coming back.
Yeah.
So my shows hadn't come back.
Yeah.
But my payments had come back. And that's where they became the worst year of my life.
Yeah.
I would say 2021 was actually probably worse.
That's crazy.
Because it just bled into it. I didn't get back to a full show schedule like what I usually do until August of 2021.
Yeah.
So for a year and a half, I was taking shows that we were just desperate. So taking if you could pay anything at all, I would
we'll
come
take
to a
it.
show, you know? And so I was doing shows that just weren't great quality shows. And so it gave me like you said, I travel a lot. I'm in a lot of different hotels. I'm in a lot of different airports. There is a level to that is like mundane and boring
100%.
and can get very old very fast.
Yeah.
But after the year and a half that I spent not doing this, I won't take it for granted. I refuse.
Yeah.
And so
That's cool.
Financially still recovering from that.
Yep.
4 years later.
Yep.
And that's what I was most annoyed by with the pandemic stuff is how everyone else was just like, yeah, it happened. We're done. We'll get over it. And I'm like, what do you mean I will be recovering from this. This will be a foundational thing in my financial life.
Yeah.
Like when I'm 60, I'll talk about how the back half of my 20s.
Yep. You lost so
my
much because
critical investing years, my critical saving years.
Yep.
I was fist in mouth, you know? And it's just like, oh my gosh. So, and I'm not like angry about that, but I'm saying that informs what I'm doing now of like, I am trying to be extremely grateful for every show that I've got. Yeah. Because I remember when I was doing parks and drive-in.
That's what I was going to ask. So drive-ins, Zoom shows, outdoor shows.
Zoom shows were dope actually, because I would do colleges, and colleges that was one of my saving graces is colleges. I don't know if whatever. They have a certain amount that they have to spend on campus entertainment.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's not bad money.
No.
And so they booked their fall already. So when fall came around, they paid the full rate for those Zoom shows. Bro. And the rate is built in so that you could buy a flight and hotel out of it. And I'm doing it from your house. Yeah. So that was actually
that's awesome.
That was one of those things where I was like, okay, rent's paid. We're okay.
Yeah.
It was still tight. But that was, without those, I honestly don't think I could be doing this still.
That's amazing. Yeah. So gratitude, right, is like, comes out of that time, that season when you can't do the thing.
Yeah. And it sucks when you're in the middle of it.
It's the worst.
And I hope that, I know that my life will have suffering like that again. It's just the nature of life. Yeah. I hope that in the middle of suffering, I can try to draw from this experience of that. I mean, it truly was one of the hardest years of my life. And the amount of times that I'm just sobbing in my car, or, my management team helped me pay rent 1 month so I wouldn't get evicted.
That's amazing.
And it's like, I hate asking for help in that way, especially like financially. It sucks. Everyone hates that. Yep. Not like I'm not like other people.
I love asking for money.
Asking for money. No, but I hope that I can, hopefully in the middle of some future suffering, try to remember that this will be something that there is another side of it. But right now, the gratitude that I feel for what I'm doing because of that suffering is something it wouldn't be possible without the suffering. Yep. You know?
So I had coffee with Bob the other day, and I said, hey, so I went on to Spotify to see if Jaron has any of his stand-up up there. And I found the Chick-fil-A song, obviously. Mm-hmm. But then I also found Yellow Choices. Yeah. Well, Bob was like, what? And so we both looked it up, and we're like, this is so like real and good and earnest. Like, oh yeah. What is that? What was that?
So Yellow Choices is an EP. That's when you used to release 5 songs at once. Now you only release 1 at a time.
Yeah.
That's the
Who has
music
time
industry.
for 5?
Yeah. Well, that's
they have no idea how good they have it.
When
just
we put out
releasing
5, we were like, oh, you got to put out an EP before you put out an album, you know? And now it's like, you got to put out a single, you got to release your album over 6 months. It's wild. Anyway, I tried to be a musician before I did comedy. And that's how I became a comic and so I was a worship leader. I wrote songs. They're still on Spotify. And, you know, I grew up doing music, and that's just who I was. And so I was like, yeah, I'm going to do the music thing. Yeah. And so I recorded an album right after I dropped out of college. And so I recorded the EP. And the original goal was to be traveling and doing worship and singing at churches and all that stuff. And then I also wrote some funny songs. Yeah. Because I did a church camp, and there was one time where one of the speakers was like, I don't know, in the bathroom or stuck in traffic, something. Right. Something they were like, hey,
they're like vamp.
We need to kill 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Somebody go do something.
Yeah.
And I went out and I made a song about finding my girlfriend on Craigslist. And it crushed with the students, right?
Of course.
And so all of a sudden around camp, I'm the funny song guy. So the next night they wanted me to do another funny song. And so then I just wrote these funny songs. Yeah. And so there was a church that called me. Yeah. I had reached out and I was like, hey, I'm going to come. I would love to come lead worship. And they're like, yeah, that'd be great. And then they're like, hey, when we were asking people about you, one of the students from had gone to a camp, and they said you wrote funny songs. Would you do just your funny songs for our Valentine's banquet before you come lead worship? And I was like, sure. And they were like, yeah, great. We'll pay you $300 in a hotel room. And I was like, $300
all at once?
Yeah. And I was working at Subway at the time.
Yeah.
And so I mean, I went and did my funny songs, and then I enjoyed that so much that it was like, wait, is that a job? Yeah. Because, you know, there's so many. It was 2014. There's so many white dudes with a guitar.
Well, sure. And you're also at a stage of life where infinity is the choices you have.
Nothing
you can be
matters.
anything. You
I
can
don't have to make money. No. I don't have to do.
Yep.
You know, I was 20 years old.
Yep.
My friends are still in college. I live in my parents' basement. Yeah. I'm working at Subway, and so it's like I spent $2,000 on a van.
Yeah. You don't want to give up too much from that lifestyle, right? Nothing. Right. Yeah.
And you can, and that's I tell people all the time. Like, if I was to start comedy now, it wouldn't happen. Like, there's no way I could do it.
No, with what you have now.
My bills that I've got now, and with my wife, she'd be so mad if I was just like, hey, what if I go make no money?
Yeah, because you're like, I can eat beans and live in my car, but you can't make her do that.
I can't make her do that, yeah.
No. Yeah.
Or our cats.
Yeah, oh, well,
or, you know.
Really today, that would be the crime.
Yeah, for real.
They'd be like, his wife.
That is something I was just joking with my wife about that. I don't know how to make this a bit on stage, but we were with some friends, and they had come to visit, and obviously LA's got quite a big homeless population.
Yes,
and so we're driving around town. There's tons of homeless people around, and then they see a homeless person who's got a dog, and so the girl that's with us, she goes, "Oh, I feel so bad for the dog." Yeah. And I'm like, you don't feel bad
for the dude? For
the 6,000 people we just drove by? What are you talking about? You feel bad for the dog? Whatever. Yes. Okay. Anyway,
that would be.
But I couldn't ask my wife to give up our life to go chase a dream. Yeah. You know. Yeah. And so Yellow Choices. The name is when the light turns yellow in a traffic light, you have a choice of if you're going to slow down or you're going to speed through it. Just good life stuff right there. Yeah. And so I put it out, and I still love those songs. I think especially for 2014, they were pretty.
Listen, songs. That's what I was gonna say. Like, Bob and I, obviously we tease you, but like, it's good. Yeah, it's good. And I think what I find interesting is that comedians are actually very earnest people. Yeah, you're just earnest in a way where you're like, but I'm going to show you how earnest I am by taking a left turn about it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. If I come at it head on.
Yeah. I mean, it's a thing of like, you know.
It's friends versus best friends.
It's wild how many people will say to my wife or to my best friend, Tim, he doesn't seem to like you that much because of how much.
Oh, yeah. You're just mean.
They think.
Yeah. But,
you know.
But you know.
I'm not.
No.
And I'm not saying anything cutting. I don't want to seem like that.
No.
I'm teasing my wife a lot. I'm teasing my best friend a lot. Yep. They're teasing me constantly. Yes. You know, I'm making fun of you for the way you're hosting this podcast. Yeah.
And the way I look.
And I hope that you take it personally. But like, that's the hey, we're buddies, we're pals.
It's the secret handshake.
Dude, if you don't make fun of your friends, what are you even doing?
So I make fun of my wife only laughs when I make fun of her.
Right.
When I impersonate her doing something ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
She's dying. And so one day I was like, what? Like, you realize this looks abusive from the outside.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And she goes, when you're doing it, I see that you see me.
Right. And that's what, okay. That is what I was talking about with the specificity of a joke.
Yeah.
Is me making a VeggieTales joke? Sure.
Yeah.
Whatever.
It's going to kill.
Broad.
Yeah.
Whatever. But me making a specific episode of VeggieTales joke is me saying, I'm not just someone who has been around church and knows the culture. I'm in this culture.
Yeah.
I was born in this.
Yeah.
It's
in-group signaling of like, I'm so deep in.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what it is when you're making fun of your spouse or teasing them or teasing your best friend, is I can see this part of you that you think no one else notices, but it's,
I got you. I saw it. The second I saw it, I clocked it.
And also my wife will do this thing where I'll say something and to our friends, she'll go, do you see how mean he is to me?
Oh, that's good though. That's good.
And I'm like,
good.
Stop. What are you doing?
She's feeding the bed, man. She's feeding the bed. It's good. Oh, what's the ultimate goal? What do you want? Like, when would you be like, Jaron Myers Industries, whatever, has hit it. We did it. This is what I wanted. Got it.
Sure. I think we're close to where I would say like I've made it. Is like the tour that we're doing is ticketed sales to my shows. For a long time, for most of this career, it's been me being a part of other people's events. And that's something that I've always wanted to break apart from, because I have no control over the roster of the event. I've got no control over the messaging of the event. And so like if I go up and I have a large following online, and there's a lot of people who aren't Christian who follow me, and they come to my shows. And if the speaker or whatever at a different part of the event says something that I go, that's actually theologically damaging.
Yeah, you're like,
people.
actually, that is not
like,
good.
You shouldn't tell people that. Then it puts my fans in a vulnerable spot, right? Yeah. And so I've always wanted to be in a spot where people are buying tickets to come to my shows, and my shows can be a spot where I am connecting my fans to each other. And I get to meet them and hang out in real life. That's super fun. And so honestly, for me, as long as my bills stay paid and I am able to actually like grow my investments, like I'm making a salary, and like I'm not shooting for the, would I love to do a theater tour and make crazy good money in this? Obviously.
Sure.
Of course.
Sure.
Would I love to be on TV and in movies? Of course. Yeah. But I will not be disappointed at the end of my life if those things don't happen.
Sure.
I will be disappointed if I settle for just doing the cruise ships. Yeah. Not that they're bad.
No, but it's different.
Right. It's and the cruise ships comics will say this. It's guaranteed money, and you don't have to promote the shows. Yep. You don't have to work anymore.
You don't have to bring anybody.
You don't. Yes. And that's and they like that. Yeah. A lot of these guys doing the cruises have been doing it for 20 years.
Of course.
Or I don't want to settle for becoming just a corporate speaker. I'll go do the corporate speaking thing. I enjoy those events. I'm not there's nothing against those things. But if I settle in a spot where it's just like, I do comedy and I make money doing it, that's not exciting to me. Yeah. I like making new fans. I like making new friends through this. And as long as I can keep doing that, I think this is what I'll be doing forever. Now, other specific goals. I would love for Tillin, my podcast, Things I Learned Last Night, to be able to pay for Tim, my co-host. Yeah. I'd love for him to make a living off of this. Yeah. So, because he's got another job. And it's a bummer. It's a corporate job, and not that he hates it, but it's just like it's a bummer for me.
Yeah, because I know
it's
exactly.
Like, hey man, you wanna come out and if I flew him out for his birthday, had to fly him back, so he only had to take one PTO day, that kind of thing. Big bummer for me. Big bummer for me.
Yeah,
that's
cool though. Chick-fil-A.
Yeah,
viral.
Sure.
Blind date. Viral. Shenanigans. When I reached out to you, I was like, hey. I know you're into shenanigans.
How did you find me?
On the internet? No, I'd seen Chick-fil-A.
Okay.
I think that was my first touch point.
Sure.
But I also loved like the blind date thing, man. That's so stupid.
Thank you.
It's so stupid. Like, because Bob said you called him.
Yeah.
And he was like, I told him not to do it. I go, that's the correct answer. That's the correct answer,
like,
actually.
I don't think that's a good idea. I was like, all right.
I guess so. Okay. I mean, I'm doing it.
Things I was like, what do I have to lose?
No, 100%. 100%. Because, okay, if it went bad, you got someone on standby to like say, I'm sorry, here's a gift card, whatever. Thanks for your time. We had
somebody with flowers in the lobby.
100%.
We had the whole thing planned out.
Right.
And then if she had left, there was a girl I knew that I went to college with who would have come down and been my date.
Been the date that night.
And then we would have just
never
tried it again, to be honest. I don't think you understand how big of a psycho I am.
No.
I knew this idea would work.
Yeah.
Like, that's one of those things that I'm like, it's the same thing with the Chick-fil-A video.
Yep.
There are certain things that as I'm playing it out, and like we talked about writing jokes, you get to this point where you're like, okay, this is working. And then you find a new level of it. Once you find that other level of it, you're like, this is gonna work.
It can't not work. It will work.
This will work.
Yeah.
And so, like we set a real car on fire for the Chick-fil-A video.
Oh, I know.
I knew this was going viral.
I know.
I knew before I posted it. I was like, I planned it. I was like, I know I'm gonna get like, and at that time, 1 million views was like the big thing.
Oh, for sure.
And so I was like, I'm getting 1 million views on this thing.
Yeah.
And so the blind date, I was like, this is gonna work.
Yeah.
And in the idea of the blind date was actually to be a proof of concept. My hope was to send that to like Hulu or HBO and be like, hey, look what I can do.
Yep.
Give me money. I'll do 5 of these for a series, or 3 of them for a 3-part Netflix series.
Well, and then it worked.
Then it worked. Yeah. Well, actually, we did the first one, and my producer was like, here's the thing. Like, even before I started dating the girl, he goes, I think that we struck lightning with this show.
Yeah.
And if we try to do it again,
it'd be weird.
We will always compare it to that.
It'll feel rewashed.
Yes.
Yep.
And so I was like, that's an interest. It'd be like if you tried to redo an improv scene, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
That's the perfect way to describe it.
That's not a thing.
Like,
that's not a thing.
What you're. Don't turn that into a sketch. It's just.
It's not a sketch.
It was organic. It was beautiful. It was great.
It was good because it was lightning.
Yes.
You can't. Once you plan lightning, now, it has to be different lightning.
I created the perfect storm for that lightning to strike.
Yes, you did.
You know, but there was always the case that it wouldn't, or there was always like the possibility that this could, you know, and we just got really lucky.
So, along the lines of shenanigans, what's the next thing now that's like tickling your brain? That's like,
I don't know.
All right, coy boy.
You know, yeah. I mean, I've always got like, you know, I've always got things that I'm trying to do and that's where this is a little harder than it used to be. In that, my travel schedule is way crazier than it used to be. So I don't have as much time to just sit around and think of ideas. Yeah. There's more pressure for what I'm doing.
For sure.
Like, these shows have to go well because I'm making money on them now.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm not making money on it and it flops, like, no one's mad.
Yeah.
You know? But if someone pays me a good amount of money to come out and the show flops, people are annoyed at that.
I'm gonna be like,
they don't like that.
Hey, you know what?
That's what I'm saying. They go, ah. They don't ask for it back, but they definitely
want to.
They imply that they would take it if you offer.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think as that pressure kind of builds up, it does create more of like a little bit of a squeeze. But there's always like ideas that there's stuff that I've got in my mind for like when we have kids. And
listen.
Yeah.
Listen. They are a treasure trove.
Well,
material.
And even beyond, I'm saying like there are stuff like, and I'm not talking about my kids. I'm talking about that time of my life. I have bits written about my kids' friends, and my kids don't exist yet.
Yep.
You know, but I can't tell them because I can't be like, oh, my kids.
No, and I'm telling you now, like it is licensed to do so many things. It's licensed to think so many things and believe so many things.
Yeah.
And then they do create. So I'm taking my 11-year-old son. Yeah. To middle school, and we're driving. We're getting close to the campus, and we see this big group of girls. Yeah. And they're all dressed exactly the same. Yeah. And I go, oh, this is a big group of girls. He goes, yeah, there's a lot of them. I said, what do you call a group of girls? Right? I go, is it a gaggle?
It's a giggle.
Is it a gaggle of gals? You know what he said? It's a gossip.
Oh, shoot.
Thank you.
Killer.
Absolute fire. I was like, that's it. That's the bit. That's it forever. Yeah.
That's phenomenal.
So yeah, a gossip of girls.
That gossip of girls.
And now you know.
Wow.
Yeah. And so
a child wrote that.
A child, yeah. And now I'm landing
it. And it's one of those jokes that was there the whole time. You know?
It was. And that's why I say, like, in retrospect.
Yes.
Absolutely obvious.
It's been there.
It's obvious.
Yeah.
But
he killed it.
Until you get there, yeah. Then may you have many, and may you have them soon.
Shucks. That was the most Christian thing you said on the show. May you reproduce and may the harvest be bountiful.
Yeah, may you multiply and fill the earth, if only for the bit. Okay? Just do it for the bit.
12 kids is a joke.
It's also a following.
I'm going to have 100 kids.
Jaron, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for doing this. I know you came in early to do this, and we appreciate it. You will see probably in up to 12 or 13 more followers based off of this podcast episode alone.
Yeah, so to make sure that I understand, it'll be Facebook followers, right? Because like that's who your crowd is.
Absolutely.
Got it.
Yeah. Or on your LinkedIn.
Oh yeah, get me some LinkedIn.
Get you some LinkedIn connections. That's right.
Sure.
Yeah, your circle is ever expanding.
Yeah, my aunt sent me this video. Said that I should reach out to you. Said you'd be really funny.
Guys, please follow Jaron on social media. Check out the dates for his tour and the Smokin' Hot Life tour and the Church Comedy tour. All this at jaronmyers.com/shows. And if you need help finding that on the internet, I don't know that this is for you. Thank you so much for doing this. Can't wait to see the show tonight. And thanks for doing the podcast, man.
Thanks for having me out. We're gonna have a good time.
This has been By George, an 80 Players at the George Theater podcast. Hosted and produced by Miranda Zapes. Listen anywhere you listen to podcasts and follow us on Instagram at By George Theater. That's THEATRE. Sure to like, share, and subscribe. And By George, we'll see y'all next time.
That's right. My brother is 7 years younger than me. And
that's a whole different family.
And that's what, for real, that's what I'm saying. Is like my parents have gone to counseling by the time you're a teenager.
You don't
even know the Christian Charles I dealt with.
Yeah.
Oh,
are you first?
Gosh, yeah, I'm the
oldest.
oldest.
I'm first too.
Yeah.
I have two younger brothers, and my youngest brother, I'm like, he just does whatever.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's super dope for him.
You know, we really learned with you that if we crack down on that, then, and you're like, what do you mean? You learned with me? Like, learn your lessons later. Be a good grandma. Hit this kid. Let me watch. Let me watch you hit that kid.
I got to make some popcorn.
That's
I'll be right back.
The only thing that'll make up for my childhood is if you let me watch you hit that kid. Use that as an out of context.
I was going to say that is the title of the episode.
Let me hit that kid. Do like a thumbnail where I'm like, you know.